This video is brought to you by WeatherTech. WeatherTech makes the best, highest quality floor liners in the industry, and these are the HP model. This is super deluxe, very high quality, super easy to clean, and of course made in the USA. But don't just think they make floor liners. Check out these seat protectors. Great for your furry friends. You got the doors off, the top off on your Jeep. These will keep your seats protected. Check out the link in the description below for all your accessory and vehicle protection needs.
Welcome back to TFL's Running on Empty.
The series that's going to hopefully help you guys decide whether or not a vehicle is right for you in terms of how it performs at the pump.
In our previous video, we gave you the top 5 most fuel-efficient truck engines in the half-ton segment. So if you want to see that again, if you haven't seen it, check it out on TFL Truck. This is a different list.
That's right. We're turning it on its head. And what we're going to be doing is looking at the vehicles, basically very similar vehicles, but that are not as efficient.
Yes, so some of these are, kind of in the middle ground, and some of them you should probably stay away from if you don't want to, break the bank at the gas pump. So what's number 5?
Number 5 is the Ford F-150 with the Coyote 5-liter V8. Now, this vehicle is rated by the EPA at 16 city, 22 highway, and 18 combined. That's the best of our worst list, so to speak.
Yes, and will progressively get worse and worse and worse.
Right.
So let's roll the video clip where you and I actually towed with one of the a 5-liter that was a couple years old, right?
Right.
This loop is 66 miles. Divide by 6.701. Should be really close to 10. Damn! 9.8.
Okay, so actually, that 5-liter, what did it do on an MPG?
Well, this was a 66-mile loop, and we've used this loop several times, and you're going to see this coming back again and again. And it got 9.8 MPG, which is actually better than the Ford twin-turbo V6 that it went up against. But still, it's not as good as other trucks out there.
Exactly, and they've improved it slightly. They gave it cylinder deactivation in the most recent iteration of the 5-liter. So it's kind of in the middle, right? It's not the best and it's not the worst.
Right, it's leading off, so it's the best of the worst in this list, but altogether it's still a relatively efficient setup, and it sounds really good.
All right, so where do we go next? What's number 4?
Now, number 4 is kind of two parts of the same vehicle. So it's the Nissan Titan Pro 4X. That, from the EPA, has a rating of 15 city, 20 highway, 17 combined. So that is definitely there. But we also wanted to talk about its predecessor, sort of, the Nissan Titan with the 7-speed automatic transmission. That one, when towing, it was notably low.
And here's the video, right? We can roll the clip now.
Right.
Okay, so 98 divided by 11.4 equals 8.6. 8.6, so a little bit less than 9.
Yeah, a little bit under that. That's interesting. Not what I expected. I expected it to do a little bit better, but it's still not terrible. So at 8.6 MPG on the Hudson Loop, it's not great. And you have to keep that in mind. If you're going to be towing that load, you may want to look somewhere else to get a more efficient vehicle.
Exactly, and that was on our other list. You should probably pick a turbo diesel in the same class. And a hybrid is there kind of also in the F-150 hybrid.
It certainly is.
Definitely, if you want to go off-road, the Pro 4X is a good truck. But for fuel efficiency, especially towing, it was number 4 on our list. And by the way, we're giving you information real world from us at TFL Truck. We have 10 years of experience. And we're not just reading spec sheets from somebody else.
Right. So we are telling you the EPA numbers, but we're also showing you clips and telling you about the vehicles that we've driven and our own personal experience. And keep in mind, this is over a mile above sea level in most cases. And the loops that we do tends to be the same loop or a very similar loop with many of these trucks.
All right, so let's move on. What's number 3?
Number 3 is actually pretty interesting because it's the Ram 1500. And the EPA rates it at 15 city, 21 highway, and 17 combined. But what's interesting about it is that the Classic, which is the prior generation, is still being built alongside the current one.
Right.
And the numbers are very similar. So it's very interesting that both trucks are very close.
Well, it's the engine that's been there for a very long time. The transmission is still the 8-speed.
Right.
But here's the thing with the Hemi. The ratings, the 21, for example, on the highway, it's okay if you look at it on paper.
Yeah, sure.
But in a real-world testing, and we recently did a long-term review of a Ram 1500 with the Hemi.
That's right.
It's slightly different story, so let's roll that clip. Loaded fuel efficiency while towing has been good, like I said. We also did a highway test with 9.7 mpg towing that heavy trailer, which is great for a half-ton truck. But during the winter time, 16 mpg has been my average. Empty mpg on the highway has been 20.4. We have a video about this when we compared it to a Jeep Grand Wagoneer. But that still doesn't match their 2022 four-wheel drive Ram EPA rating of 22 mpg. So there you have it. We just wrapped up a long-term test with that backcountry truck. It was showing 16 mpg, but we also saw up to about 20 mpg on the highway. So we never quite reached that sticker, the EPA number.
Yeah, and some people might think that it has something to do with the altitude because we are at high elevation, and it could. That could be part of it.
But it also probably has to do, it's kind of slightly older tech now. I mean, it's pretty reliable, but it's slightly older tech.
I would agree with that.
What's next?
Number 2 is the Chevrolet Silverado 4x4 with the 6-speed automatic transmission and the 5.3-liter V8. This is a very interesting number. I did not expect this. 14 city, 16 highway, 15 combined.
And these are 2022 ratings.
That is correct.
Okay, so we haven't tested the 2022 Chevy Silverado truck, granted, right? But we have tested them in the past. And the 6-speed automatic is their older transmission choice.
Yes, it is.
Which is still around. But what recently happened in 2022 also, because of some chip shortages, some of that fuel management software computers are not there. So that's why some of the ratings went down. But we have a video from a previous generation truck, right?
That's right, and it runs the Hudson Loop while towing.
Let's take a look. And I just got 9.246 gallons using our double click method. So 98 divided by 9.246 equals, ta-da, 10.6. That's actually very close to what the computer said, within 0.1 mpg. That's probably as close as we've got.
So at 10.6 mpg, that's actually not horrible. And these trucks are built for towing. That 5.3 liter can be obviously a lot more efficient with the different transmission and with all the chips it needs. But there's something very interesting about the, which we're going to cover at the very end of the bonus, with the E85 version of this truck.
Yeah, so if you're looking at GM trucks, and this includes GMC Sierra, just to wrap up this point, look at the 10-speed automatic. The 8-speed we've had some problems in the past with, but if you look at the 5.3 or 6.2 with a 10-speed automatic transmission, choose those if you want better efficiency.
It's notably better. But let's get to number 1, because number 1 is interesting.
Okay, so this is the truck that's still kind of around, right?
Right.
It's the previous year, but it's still here.
That's right. So this is the 2021 Toyota Tundra. Now, we know there's a new one. We own one. But the dealership lots in some places still have the 2021. And we have it number 1 on our list because it gets terrible gas mileage.
Yes, it's the older V8, i4's 5.7 liter. Do we have a clip to play here?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
6.006. So let's do the calculation and get the more exact number. Total route, according to GPS, is 66 miles. Divide by 6.006 equals, well, rounding up, it's basically 11 mpg. So the truck was a little bit pessimistic. 11 mpg is actually not bad a result considering how much the trailer weighs.
All right, so what happened in this clip?
Well, it averaged 11 miles per gallon towing on a loop of 66 miles. As I mentioned, that loop comes back again and in. But even its EPA ratings are really low. 13 city, 17 highway, 14 mpg combined. That is abysmal.
Yeah, and it's kind of a good reliable, right?
Yeah,
it has
yeah,
a 6-speed automatic.
Yep.
It has that 430 rear differential ratio, which was meant for pulling space shuttles, right?
Right.
So, yeah, this is why it's at the top of our worst list, and it's being replaced.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that very few are left on dealership lots, but we're just letting you guys know that if you get the prior generation, you might have to pay at the pump.
So there's a little bit of a theme here. The previous list that we did in the previous video had a lot of turbo diesels, some hybrids, and some more advanced turbocharged engines.
Right.
This list has mostly V8 engines and also older V8 engines as well.
That is correct. But there's one more thing we wanted to add to this.
Yes.
Go for it.
Which is actually different fuels, right?
That's correct.
Because you can sometimes run some of these engines if the manufacturer allows you on, for example, ethanol 85.
Yeah.
85% ethanol, E85.
E85, of course.
So what happens if you do that?
E85 doesn't burn the same as regular gasoline does, so E85 is much less expensive at the pump usually, but it burns much faster, so it's not as efficient. And I have an example here. You guys aren't going to believe this, but a 5.3 liter General Motors V8, all right, the 5.3 that can run on E85, one example gets 11 miles per gallon combined.
And this is just the rating.
Yeah,
just,
that is the
just
EPA
11.
rating.
So here's the thing. Like you said, it burns a little bit hotter but quicker.
Yes.
Right? Not as efficient,
Right.
cheaper. I was looking at the numbers. I believe it's about 50 to 60 cents nationally less expensive per gallon to get E85 than regular gasoline. So, I mean, if you're really strapped for cash, but you're not going to go as far. Just the bottom line.
That's the thing on balance,
Yeah.
and that's what unfortunately consumers are going to have to figure out. Yes, I can buy this gasoline for less, but I'm not going to go as far per gallon. And in some cases, it's pretty notable. 11 miles per gallon, and that is combined.
And there's another way of doing it. It's
Yeah.
a CNG, right? Compressed natural gas.
That's right.
And we actually have a video from several years ago where we tested a Ford with the compressed natural gas system. But this is the system you have to install after the fact on your truck.
That is correct.
And here's a little clip of that. But once again, it's less efficient, could be cheaper to refill, but a lot less efficient.
Right.
Really an interesting way to power a pickup. So let's go over the top makers and breakers. I'll give you a maker. This has an extraordinary amount of range.
It certainly does, and you also lose an extraordinary amount of the bed space here, and it's hard to see out of.
All right, I'll give you that. But another maker is that CNG potentially is less expensive to power this pickup.
Okay, that's absolutely true. And CNG, as a breaker, is slower, a lot slower.
It is slower. All right. It is also much more clean burning.
Yeah, I guess that would be a maker, but you know what a breaker would be?
What?
$10,000 more.
Well, there you have it, guys. Follow us on TFL-studios.com because we also have car running on the MT list
Right.
for best and most efficient cars. EVs, TFL EV. We also will have a TFL off-road list.
Bingo, off-road's coming up real soon as well, so stay tuned for that.
And coming up on this channel, mid-sizers soon, and also heavy-duty trucks, the best and the worst.